Being a jeweler is an incredible journey. Every day I get to shape metal with my hands, work with some of nature's finest gemstones, and tackle some really neat challenges. But the best part? It's crafting those pieces that mean the world to someone. Especially those that keep memories of loved ones alive. Take this project for instance. This young man experienced a profound loss. His father unexpectedly passed away before his wedding day. He inherited his father's original wedding band and entrusted it to me, seeking to infuse it with a personal touch and a special detail that celebrates his bond with his soon-to-be wife. It's an incredible honor for me to be a part of such a meaningful story. Join me on this journey as I guide you through the process of transforming this cherished piece. I'm Emigh. Discover the art of fine jewelry making, where each creation is a journey from concept to completion. I've really been looking forward to showing the process of this project to you all, as it's a very sentimental story, but it's also going to be a somewhat complex project to complete. It's definitely a first of its kind for something that I've built. Last year, a young man and his girlfriend had me design and build a 14-karat rose gold hidden halo engagement ring for them. The young man who used that engagement ring to propose to his now fiancée unexpectedly lost his father due to a torn aorta last August. He inherited his father's wedding band after his passing, and he brought it to me to make some modifications to make this sentimental wedding band one of a kind. This is the wedding band that he inherited from his father. We're going to need to increase its size from a size 9 to a 12.5. We're going to be adding a hammered finish. We'll be eliminating the detailed edges, and last but not least, I'm going to be adding 3 sections of 14-karat rose gold to pay tribute to his fiance's engagement ring. But first, before we tear into this sentimental ring, we're going to do a practice run on a wedding band that I have laying around the shop. I want to test the hammers that I have to see how the hammered finish is going to turn out on this ring. So using this wedding band that I have laying around the store that we would just use for scrap will be a perfect test. So let's go anneal this ring to soften the gold, and then we'll start hammering away. Annealing is a process where you heat the white gold to like a brick red, and you hold that for about 30 seconds, and then you let it air cool. This relaxes the molecules in the gold and allows the metal to soften up, and it makes it more malleable. So whenever I hammer it with my ball peen hammer, we'll get the impressions that we're looking for to get that hammered finish. When annealing things, I always like to turn the lights off at my bench. That helps me see what color the gold is whenever I'm heating it up. We don't want it to get too hot, but we want it to be like a nice brick red color. And to start, I dip the wedding band in a combination of denatured alcohol and boric acid. This is called a fire coat, and this will protect the ring from getting fire scale on it, which is basically just like a scabbing of the metal. And it also looks cool when you light it on fire, kind of like a green flame. Alright, so we'll let that air cool. As you saw, I got to like a nice brick red color. And then we let it cool off here. A lot of times too, I'll throw it on a ring mandrel. Anything that's metal will be a heat sink. It'll suck all the heat out of the ring. Alright, so check this out. The ring that we're going to practice on is currently a size 7. And because the ring mandrel is tapered, I'm expecting the ring size to increase some whenever I practice this hammered finish on it. Starting off at a size 7, we'll see how much it stretches just from the hammering process. I want to find out on this test ring rather than find out on the actual project that it stretches a lot, because the size on this project is really important. Here's a few ball peen hammers I have laying around the shop that I'm going to experiment on the test ring to see which one leaves a better hammered finish. After doing a few practice hits on the ring, I'm beginning to figure out how much force I'll want to use when hammering the actual customer's ring. But one thing that I noticed whenever I was hammering is the hammer marks are looking pretty rough, and this is because my ball peen hammer has seen better days. I need to polish these nicks out of the surface of the hammer. That's something interesting about metalworking. You can actually transfer the finish of one metal to another metal just by the two metals making contact. But simply using a rubber wheel, I can easily remove any imperfections on my hammer. That way, the hammer marks on the ring will all be nice and smooth going forward. It's also important that whenever I'm doing this hammering, I occasionally spin the ring on the mandrel because if you don't, then the ring will become cone shaped. So we don't want that either. You have to do it incrementally and make sure it's even on both sides. All right, I like how that's turning out, and I'm feeling pretty confident to begin work on the customer's actual piece. And before we move on to the customer's piece, let's check the size difference here. It's hard to tell on this mandrel, but you can see a little 7 peeking out above the ring. This ring started off as like a 7, and with that hammering, it ended up being about a 7.5. So it increased about a half size. So that's something I need to keep in mind whenever it comes time to figuring out how much I need to stretch the customer's ring. Okay, so remember at the beginning of this video, I mentioned how this project is going to be pretty complex. The complex part about it is the sizing aspect of this ring. And I've sized thousands of rings in my career, but this one just has a lot of moving parts and pieces. Let me explain. The ring is currently about a size 8.5, and we need to go to a size 12.25 for the customer. We're going to be applying that hammered finish around outside of the ring. That hammered finish will probably increase the size of the ring 1/4 to a half size because I'm hammering it on this ring mandrel, which is solid steel, and it's tapered. So as you're hammering, it spreads the metal out, which causes the ring's finger size to increase. Once the hammered finish is applied to the ring, we're going to put it on our ring stretcher, and I'm going to show you the process of how we increase the finger size of plain wedding bands like this one. And we'll take that all the way pretty close to where we need to be for the final finger size, but then we'll be adding 3 pieces of 14 karat rose gold to the ring, which will also increase the finger size. So the trick is combining those 3 variables and calculating them properly so we don't go over the finger size 12.25. I have the ring annealed currently, so the white gold is nice and soft. So to begin, I'm going to start by doing the hammered finish first, and we'll see where that gets us for the finger size at that point. And once I'm happy with the hammered finish, we'll move on out to the ring stretcher and we'll try to increase the size from there. I'll continue to do the same hammering process that I just completed on the practice ring. Hammering the ring like this hardens the metal pretty quickly, so I have to anneal the ring several more times during the process to keep the gold soft and malleable. Alright, so I'm really liking this hammered finish on the customer's piece. It's very consistent. This ring has a mill grain finish on the edge, but the customer wants me to eliminate those, so I'll show you that later in the video. But I'm really happy with how this is turning out, and I think we're about ready to go put it on the ring stretcher and increase the finger size. Alright, so check this out. Just that hammering got us up to like a size 9.25. So we need to go bump it up a little bit on the ring stretcher, but we need to come up short a little bit because we are going to be adding those pieces of rose gold, which will also increase the finger size. Before we get too deep into the ring sizing, let's talk about something I'm not very good at: math. This is when the complexity of this project comes into play. As a rule, every 2.2 millimeters of gold that you add to a ring is equivalent to 1 finger size. The strips of rose gold that I'll be adding to this ring are approximately 1.5 millimeters wide, and we'll be doing 3 of them. So let's bring out the calculator. 1.5 times 3 is 4.5. If we divide that by 2.2, which will tell us how many finger sizes those 3 stripes of rose gold will add to the ring, it gives us about 2. So we know the addition of these rose gold stripes will be 2 finger sizes. We also know the end goal of this ring is to be a size 12.25. So we enter on the calculator 12.25, and then we subtract the 2 finger sizes that we know the rose gold stripes will add, and that gives us 10.25. So now that the hammering is done, and we are currently sitting at about a 9.25, that tells me I need to stretch the ring up an additional 1 finger size on the ring stretcher to get it to the appropriate place where we can add the 3 stripes of rose gold, and the final result will be a perfect size 12.25. Let's cross our fingers and hope this math adds up. Alright, so this is a ring stretcher, and this is a tool that we frequently use for these plain gold wedding bands. We can stretch pretty much any ring that doesn't have gemstones and hasn't previously been cut in half. If the ring's been previously cut, if we go to stretch it, it'll always pop right open where it's been soldered previously. And if there's gemstones set into the ring, all the gemstones will come out as soon as you start stretching it. So it has to be a plain ring that's consistent the whole way around. The way it works is there's a handle that will pull on, and as you pull that handle, it moves this mechanism up and down, and it slowly stretches the ring from the inside. And this tool can also compress rings down at the bottom here. All you do to size a plain wedding band down is you find a hole where you can place the wedding band, and just a little bit is peeking out from the top. You slide that underneath here, and then whenever you lower the handle, it'll compress the ring lower into this tapered hole, and that decreases the finger size. But we're not going to be doing that today because we need to increase the finger size. You might be able to see that this ring stretcher is tapered. So what I'll do is I'll do half of the stretching on one side, and then I'll rotate it so that the ring doesn't end up being cone shaped. Another reason you flip it on the stretcher is because if you don't, the ring will fit more tightly whenever you put it on one direction than the other direction. It's important that I do this process incrementally. If you stretch a ring too far, it'll crack, and then it's a really bad day. So we'll stretch this up about a half size, and then we'll go anneal it one more time and stretch it up the remaining amount. Annealing's the trick to prevent it from cracking. Another thing too is as I'm stretching it, I rotate it ever so slightly. And that's because this device has different sections on it. And if you keep it all in one place, it'll kind of deform the ring and it won't be as much of a perfect circle as I'm looking for. All right, let's check the size. Almost to a 9.5. And this ring is very hard. That's typical of white gold. And like sometimes when I'm stretching yellow gold rings, it's like soft like butter. But this one is definitely putting up a fight. So we're gonna take it easy, sneak up on it nice and slow. The last thing I want to happen is for this ring to crack. All right, just finished the final stretch. Right now we are sitting at a perfect 10.25 on both sides. So that tells me that the ring will fit appropriately both directions. That's what we want. I'm happy with the hammered finish and how it looks. The next step will be adding the rose gold stripes. One of the challenges with adding the rose gold stripes is going to be placement. The customer wants them to be evenly separated across the ring, so there will be equal segments of white gold between each rose gold stripe. And I think I have the perfect idea on how to plot these different sections. We'll go do that now. So there is an equation that I could use to figure out the 3 different sections of this ring, but instead of doing the math, I have a trick that I think is going to be a little bit easier. I'm going to use technology to my advantage here. I have a diagram here of a circle that represents the ring, and then divide it into 3 different parts. I'm going to set the diameter to the same size as the ring, and then I'll know exactly where to scribe my lines on the ring so I know exactly where to cut.
First, I'll meticulously scribe the white gold to divide the ring into 3 different sections. Then, using my jeweler's saw, I'll carefully cut the ring in half. To ensure a flawlessly smooth surface, I'll employ a cutting wheel attached to my rotary handpiece. This step is crucial for preparing the ring for the insertion of the piece of rose gold. I'll then precisely align the piece of rose gold to minimize as much waste as possible. Once I have it properly aligned, I'll solder it into place using my torch. I'll then slide the ring onto my ring mandrel to cool it off quickly.
All right, so we added 1 section of the rose gold so far, so we're going to be adding 2 more, but I want to keep using this piece of rose gold because that way it keeps all the sections the same width. There's a lot of potential waste here, so we want to minimize that. So I'm going to cut around the section that I want to keep, and then we will reuse that same piece of rose gold for the other sections.
During this process, I'm extra cautious to avoid cutting too close to the ring, as that could cause damage. When working with precious metals, it's crucial to minimize waste and seize every opportunity to reuse materials. With this in mind, I'll use my jeweler's saw to meticulously detach the rose gold piece from the wedding band. Now I'll repeat this process 2 more times to complete the trio of rose gold stripes. I love how this project holds profound meaning due to its sentimental value. It's his father's original wedding band. These rose gold stripes symbolize his wife's rings, and the personal touch of the hammered finish he requested adds a layer of uniqueness. As I wrap up the soldering portion of this project, I'd like to invite you to hit the like button and subscribe to my channel if you enjoyed this type of content. I aim to post several short videos each week, and I'm diligently working to produce more of these longer format videos consistently. Your support is greatly appreciated. With the soldering now complete, I'll move on to cleaning up the excess material on the inside of the ring. This step is crucial for ensuring the ring's comfort and flawless finish. Alright, I'm kind of on the home stretch with this project now. Next step, I just need to remove the stepped edges on the outside of the ring. I'm going to cut those off with my saw, and then I need to file down the extra metal left over from the rose gold sections. The process of removing the original edges from the wedding band has to be done incrementally. I'll slowly rotate the band to guarantee that my cut remains perfectly straight the whole way around the ring. Alright, so I got those edges cut off, and here you can see the remains. They're really thin, but that's going to give this ring a more defined look. Here you can still see the saw marks from whenever I cut it. So we'll clean that up with a file and some sandpaper, and then we'll move on to sanding down those rose gold sections. The process of erasing the cut marks begins by filing until all the marks are completely smoothed out. After I filed away most of the cut marks from the saw, I'll use this belt sander that will really take down all the other tool marks, and it'll give me a nice matte finish. You can see here that sander put a real nice consistent edge on the ring. Pretty much the last thing I need to do is bring down the height on these rose gold sections and just clean it up where I've soldered them, and this project will be complete. I'm going to take the majority of the material down with just like a standard grind wheel. I'm not going to go the whole way with the grind wheel just because it's super aggressive, and I don't want to mess up the hammered finish that I've put on the white gold, but this will just get me real close to the final look. I think I'm going to do a polished finish on the rose gold. If I don't do polished finish, I'll just do like a matte brushed finish. Even if we do a polished finish just through normal wear and tear, that will kind of wear away. We'll see what I think whenever I get there. I have to be extra cautious when using this grind wheel to clean up and shape the rose gold pieces. It's a highly aggressive abrasive wheel that removes material very quickly. Without careful attention, I could accidentally remove too much material, or the wheel might come in contact with the white gold section, potentially disrupting its carefully crafted hammered finish. Alright, that's pretty much all the further I want to go with that aggressive of a wheel. Next thing I'm probably going to do, I'm going to clean up the solder and like this blackness on the white gold just to really see where the rose gold starts and stops. I'm probably going to go in there with a graver and engrave like a fine definitive line between the white gold and the rose gold just to make it more visible, and then I will continue to work the rose gold down closer to the white gold. This abrasive wheel mounted on my polishing machine is equivalent to 600 grit sandpaper. It's perfectly suited for gently removing any soot left on the ring from the soldering process, yet it's gentle enough not to disrupt the hammered finish. Now the contrast between the rose and white gold is becoming more pronounced. Next, I'll use a rubber wheel to polish out the file marks left behind by that stone wheel that I used earlier to shape the rose gold sections. Now I'll use a graver, which is essentially a sharpened piece of steel attached to an air hammer, to carefully carve a definitive line where the two metal colors meet. This technique will enhance the contrast between the colors even further, giving the ring a more distinguished and cleaner appearance. My goal for the outer edge of the ring is to boast a high polish, creating a striking contrast with the matte finish of the hammered section. To achieve this, I'll begin by sanding the outer edge, then move on to polishing the sides of the ring using the side of this mounted polishing wheel. With the edges of the ring now sporting a bright polish, the next step is to remove all the polishing compound that's built up on the ring using my ultrasonic cleaner. This is essential for preparing the white gold for rhodium plating.
Alright, so the ring's fresh out the cleaner after I polished the edges, and I'm being sure not to touch the ring at this point. And I'm going to put these gloves on now because for this next step, it's important that I don't put fingerprints on the ring. So I'm going to be using nail polish to mask off the rose gold sections and leaving the white gold sections exposed, because I'll rhodium plate this ring so that the white sections are nice, bright and white, but the nail polish will protect the rose gold from getting the rhodium on it. And the reason you don't want fingerprints on the ring is because any fingerprints will show in the rhodium. So you basically just permanently put a fingerprint on the ring. You have to polish the rhodium off to fix it, and it's just easier to wear gloves to avoid the issue. And no, it doesn't matter what color nail polish you use. It's whatever the store has, I grab.
After I apply the nail polish to all 3 sections of rose gold, we'll let the nail polish dry and then we'll move on to the rhodium plating. I'll submerge the ring into the rhodium solution, and by applying an electric current, the rhodium will bond to the metal surface. This process results in a bright white luster, enhancing the ring's appearance with a durable and reflective finish.
Alright, so now we just have to remove that nail polish. To do that, I'm just going to put the ring in this little cup. We'll add some lacquer thinner. This will weaken the nail polish. And then I'll put this whole cup inside of the ultrasonic cleaner. And this will just vibrate the paint off.
Once the protective nail polish is removed, I'll give it a quick blast with steam to clean off any residue. This final step unveils the finished product, showcasing the high level of detail put into this piece. And there we have it, the journey of transforming a piece rich in history and emotion into something that's ready to be cherished for many more years to come. I'm incredibly grateful to have had the opportunity to work on such a meaningful piece and to share this process with all of you. If you enjoyed watching this transformation and the story behind it, I'd love to hear your thoughts. Leave a comment below, share your own stories of sentimental jewelry, or any questions you might have about the process. Your support means the world to me, and it's what keeps these projects coming.
Alright, so that's it for this project. It was a great honor to make such a sentimental piece for a young man who lost his father. He entrusted me to transform his father's original wedding band into the wedding band that he'll now use at his wedding. Projects like these are some of my favorite to do. Super sentimental, they mean so much to everyone, and it really means a lot to me that people let me do that to their special items. So thanks for watching. If you haven't already, subscribe to my channel, like this video if you enjoyed it, and we'll see you next time.